Hello everyone, Mountain here. Today is Sunday, October 2nd, and as you can see, we are here at Lake Purgatory, where we've been all along making these videos. It is a gorgeous day today, barely a cloud in the sky, as there's a cloud right in front of us. My watch just beeped, it's 1 o'clock. I thought about making this video a little bit later in the day, but the weather's so beautiful, I thought, well, we should make it now. And plus, I'm kind of sitting idle today. Just gonna walk down to the water here. Oh no! What's going on? Where is it? The boat's gone. There you can see the tracks that it used to leave coming into the bay here. Here comes the dogs. I think they heard something. I heard a little something. Look down there. Oh yeah, so the boat's gone. What's up with that? Well, guys, my friend who I've been talking about for this entire time here, he never did get back to me. So I made the valiant decision to reach out to somebody else. The first message I got back from them was, let me look into this after work. I guess they got my message while they were at work. And the next message I got from them was that they have rented a vehicle and that they are on their way up to the north to come and grab me on Monday, October 3rd. So that was the second message I received from them. That was on a Tuesday. So just a couple days after I had made my last video with you guys. I don't think we can see them, but the dogs are over there on the peninsula. And it really is just a gorgeous day today. I mean, like, look at the sky. Epic day. So I said I was sitting kind of idle, and that's true. I didn't mention this before, but I actually made a vow that whenever I found out that I was for surely coming out of here, that I wouldn't kill any more animals or birds or anything like that. So this week I haven't, I did go fishing a couple times because it was the last times in the boat. And I thought, why not, right? And sorry, the dogs are hilarious. And yeah, so I went fishing. I actually think I only went one time since Tuesday. I never caught anything. It was just, your standard out in Woodsy Lake having a fish. And I just said the name of the lake again, so we'll have to mute that out. I think that's only the second time I've done it in all these videos, so that's pretty good. But yeah, so I wanted to make this video. Today is my last full day here. The helicopter's coming to pick me up tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. So I'll just kind of go through what I did throughout the week here. Then we'll go up to the cabin. We'll take a look and see what's going on up there. And I'll probably finish out the video with a few stories. That's kind of my idea. But yeah, so I found out on Tuesday after I came back from my hunt. I didn't actually get anything, and I turned on my Garmin just to check it out, and there was that message that said that he was going to be here on Monday. So I contacted the helicopter pilot, informed my mom that I was coming out, and everything was pretty much all set by that evening. So I have been out every day since then. I've seen lots and lots of birds, which is good, makes me feel better. Not like I depleted the population or anything like that. To be honest with you, I was trying to think about it, but I think I've probably killed about 50 spruce grouse since I got here in June. and not so many in the first month because I wasn't really going out hunting too much because it was so much rain. But there was so much rain. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, 50 would probably be a high estimate, but it can't be too far from that because I was thinking about it. I ate chicken almost daily. And I never shot any ducks when I was here this time. So this time around, the only things I ate were I ate a porcupine. I got 2 of them. I saw 4. And fish. I ate lots of fish when I first got here, and the fishing was good. And then the fishing receded, and it's not been very good since then. And then I've eaten a lot of chickens. Because, yeah, I ate chicken. I remember there was a few weeks there where I ate chicken pretty much every day. And I think that I was thinking about, I probably even ate it twice in one day, at least a couple of times. And that would have been because, like, well, I had 2 or 3 birds and, you know, or I'd eaten one and then I went out and I got a couple more. So I came back at night. Also, if my shots weren't so clean, I'd tend to eat them rather than let them sit. Whereas if I had a nice clean shot on the bird, then I would be more like comfortable storing it for a couple of days. So the dogs are off wherever they are. I'm sure they don't have any idea that it's their last day. I can't believe how much fall has set in the last week. And just here, I'm just kind of like showing you guys the bushes. You guys, I hate that. Everyone, the bushes here. And the reason for that is because they're barren, whereas before you couldn't even see through them. And yeah, so the boat thing, that's a real quick story. It wasn't yesterday, it was the day before. I decided that I found the boat on the other side of the lake. It was one of the first things I found before the cabin. So I thought, you know what, the right thing to do is to go put that boat back exactly the way you found it. Even though it's the float plane pilot's, he knows that I was using it. Last time he flew me in here, we were just looking at a spot where a boat used to be. Last time he flew me in here, I had the boat up over here. I don't think I've ever showed you guys this. This used to be the dock where, you guys, man, why is that a YouTube curse? Oh yeah, I pulled the poles out of the water too. I mean, you know, they're gone, so there's nothing to see, but this is the old dock, and it actually behind it, there's like a little walkway exactly like the one that I made out of the dock that used to come out here. So I guess he used to have something that would stretch way out into the water there. I mean, right here is not great. I don't know why he wouldn't put it down. If you go down another 15 or 20 feet, the water actually does significantly drop. But either way, it's his, maybe he had it at some angle. I don't know. It's his business. But these are the poles that I pulled out of the water. So they're now on shore. They're never going to go anywhere. And yeah, the pole idea was really good. I'm happy with that. What else was I going to say about down here? I don't think too much. I put the boat back exactly where it was supposed to go. I think that was good. Like I said, the float plane pilot knew it was here. I had it leaning. Oh yeah, I was trying to tell you, I had it leaning up against the dock over there, and he kind of fussed about that, like, oh, you can't leave it there through the winter. And I was like, well, okay. And now that I'm leaving, I'm not coming back. It's not my boat. I was gonna haul it up to the cabin and lean it up against the side, but I thought, you know, it's probably better just to put it back exactly how I found it. So that's what I did. And here we go. We're going to go through this little tour here. I don't know how good the lighting's going to be, but we'll give it a shot. Well, I'll show you guys a couple things that I haven't really shown before. Here's my guns. They're all packed up here. I'm getting my shadow out of the way. There's 2 in there. I have 2 up on the porch. The shotgun's loaded, but the 30-06 has its locks on it. It's not loaded. It's got all the bullets removed. And these are a couple totes. They're going to go inside. This one here, The yellow one I'm kicking is empty. The blue one's got some stuff that I, excuse me, I'm running out of breath, took out of the cabin. And yeah, so the blue one's right here. It's going to go back in the yellow one as well. I was worried about it raining, and then there's not too much space in the cabin for the floor space, so I just left them outside overnight. Now, as you can see here, this is my Garmin. It's being charged, even though it doesn't really need to. It's got pretty much full charge. I remember that this is called, remember last week I couldn't figure out the name of it, these battery packs or whatever they are, but I had the name of it and I've forgotten it again. Anyways, sorry guys, I'm a little bit, these are not scripted videos. I'm just doing it for fun. This is a solar panel charging station. It takes USB. It has 2 ports. You can see there's a little meter up there. I'm covering it in the shade. Tells you how it's charging. Man, that thing has totally made my life better up here. I use the battery pack to charge up whatever I want. I mean, I use it to charge the phone if I need to. I use it to charge the video game system, the 3DS. I can use it to charge anything I want to because pretty much everything these nowadays runs on USB. So that's a really awesome thing. I'm going to take that out with me, and I actually have another one that's brand new that I've never used. Because again, when I came here, I thought, well, I'm going to be here forever, so I might as well have 2 of everything. So I got 2 headlamps and two solar panels and etc., all that stuff. So out here, there's my tools. There's some stuff I got to put away, a little bit of cleaning up to do. I'm not leaving till tomorrow morning at 10, and as I mentioned before, it's only 1 in the afternoon right now. I did do most of everything yesterday, so anything that has to be moved, and I'll show you that in a little bit here, but anything that has to be moved is, yeah, I mean, it's just going to get done in the morning. What I'm trying to get out is anything that has to be moved, I don't really want to get wet. And it does have a kind of a weird cloud system here where things can just roll in. So, I mean, I have books and things I don't want to leave outside, but I do have a bundle of stuff that's just sitting outside down the trail. Now, the lighting in here is not actually that bad because it's a nice clear day. I did some dishes this morning. There's my little plant sitting up there. I'm still reading my book. I got my hairbrush on top of it. You can see the top of here has changed a lot. Now that's the dog's food in front of it, and those hats are obviously going with me, but that tote right there, and on top of it is a canvas, like a cot, and then there's the snowshoes as well on top there. They're no longer hanging outside, and the tote's all full of clothes. The totes outside are going to be filled with the bedding. Some of the bedding I'm taking, some not. This is another thing where I just don't want to leave it outside, chance of getting wet. My grandfather made this. It's really cool. It's like a Viking hope chest or whatever you want to call it. And he painted it and he made it, and it's followed me around for a long time. So leaving it outside is just not going to happen. And then up there, I got some dirty clothes that I'm going to, I have a garbage bag that I put dirty clothes in. So I'm going to just keep that until the morning because I'm going to throw some dirty clothes in it. And then I'll walk it down to the other side. So I don't know how often I showed this, but I used to hang my headlamp. Well, I still do, but by the time anybody's watching this, it will no longer be hanging there. Oh man, I'm long-winded. Anyways, there's where I hang my headlamp. This is where I hang up my 3DS. I got my 3DS in here. I also keep my phone in here as well. There's a little leather case right beside the bed, kind of nice. Took used to make me so angry, but then it turned out to be a really good tea cozy. So that's what it ended up being, is my tea cozy. And then there's not much to see over here. The shelves are cleaned up. Those big boots I'm pointing at with my foot there, they're going to go with me. I am going to tidy up the shelf a little bit more, but all this is going to stay. All the stuff hanging on the wall is going to stay. I figure that if anybody else comes here, it'll just be nice to have all the stuff that I used regularly. And I did take some stuff of mine off of there, but I'm not going to bring things that are so useful here back to society where I can just go to a dollar store and get another one or whatever, right? So up here, this shelf has got all the stuff that I'm going to take, so I'm kind of putting this as like my outbox. Definitely going to leave the solar light. Now, I never use these for catching anything. They're just here, but some of them I did bring, actually. But yeah, there's all the traps. I moved them from outside and hung them up inside. You can see all the pictures that I had up there and the hats and everything. They're all taken down. These few things of clothes here and the dog's leashes, they're all going to come with me. The clothes, they're going to go in the dirty laundry bag. All these spices and rice and all this stuff that's not in a glass jar, that'll all go in the cupboard. And yeah, I've been eating pretty good because I did bring things up here that I wanted to save, like, for Christmas dinner and stuff. So tonight I'm actually going to have my Christmas dinner. I'm going to have a tinned ham, a couple cans or a couple boxes of the juice there. You could see it right there. And then there's some instant mashed potatoes and a little pack of gravy. So I'm just going to have canned ham, gravy, and potatoes. I did eat all the salmon. I had the last tin of it yesterday. It was really good. Yeah, I actually had baked beans on steamed rice, plain steamed rice, and a can of, it wasn't smoked salmon, it was just tinned salmon, and it was so good. And I know that sounds really weird. You're probably like, oh, salmon and rice and baked beans? Like, I'm talking like Heinz baked beans, right? But it was really good, so I filled up the sugar and I did all the food here. You can see, actually, I'll just show real quick, all this is all stocked up. All the tin food is in the cupboard now. I redid the totes over here in the corner, which you can kind of see better because the jackets aren't there. And yeah, so that's all just stocked with food. I know that sounds like I have a lot of food, but it's really like, big bags of flour. There's a big bag of rice. There's 2 bags of pasta left over, which wouldn't really last me more than a few weeks if I stretched it out. And then there are, what else in there? Oh yeah, lots of beans. There is lots of beans here. So, if I wanted to live like a Russian convict in exile, then yeah, I could probably survive off beans with the dogs for a little bit. But I don't know, when it's every time you think you have a lot of something and then you start to use it because you feel like you have a lot of it, all of a sudden you don't have so much of it anymore. And that's definitely something I've learned out here. But the first aid kit and other stuff is just going to stay. These water containers, I've selected a couple water containers to come back with me. I'm probably babbling and this is probably boring, but whatever. This is my last video in the cabin. I do plan on taking a video tomorrow when the helicopter comes and picks me up. I'll go and I'll take a video of me sitting outside with all my stuff. And it'll probably be pretty short, just me saying goodbye. I have cried a lot the last few days. Not like an over crazy amount, but just certain things get me going. Like, even thinking about it right now is like, I love this cabin so much, and just the thought of it sitting alone in the rain and nobody here to take care of it, it really just drives me crazy. So I'm trying not to think about that. You can see the windowsill here. I've cleaned everything off of it. And they're going to all fly away, but there's these crooked-billed, these white-winged, what is it? What are they? They're white-winged grosbeaks. And they have been here for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And they're amazing little birds. You see them flying around there. There's a whole pack of them. There's something in this bush here that they like. I can't figure out what it is. They're really small birds, so I won't be able to zoom in on them, but you should check out a picture of them. Their males and the females are really pretty there. like I said, what do they call it? They're white-winged crossbills. So yeah, I have a bird book. I identified them. I told you guys before I'm a bird enthusiast. And I cleaned up all the stuff on the outside of the cabin here. These shutters are gonna get put up and I'm gonna nail them shut. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how much to say here. The dogs area is always the same. Their bowls are over there. I definitely increased how much I was feeding them since I found out we were leaving. Because I figured I have a couple bags of dog food. I might as well just let them eat as much as they want. So I basically more than doubled what they've been getting. And it's actually, I've seen them change a little bit too. Like the way they eat is different now. They don't just pig it out. They kind of sit there and take their time eating it, which is nice because it really bothers me when I put down the food and it's gone in like 10 seconds. I don't know, stuff like that's always bothered me. Like they don't enjoy it, they just scarf it down. And but like I said, now that I started to feed them even more, they are sitting there and they're taking 10 minutes to eat. So that's kind of nice. 10 minutes is better than 10 seconds. So I'll probably sit here now. The fire's out. I made a tea earlier. I had a bowl of porridge. I'm not much feeling like eating anything. I don't know. That partly could be because I'm leaving. Over here, I got some cleaning up to do. Just gonna take me a few minutes to put this wood aside. But yeah, I got my firewood going here. I don't think I'm gonna bother opening that up. There's really no point. But all the stuff that doesn't go in the cabin is packed away in there. I mean, the shovels and all the tools, the fishing rods, the stuff that's not garbage but can be used, but I never used it. That's all in totes in there. So I don't know. That's all done. One of the last things I'm going to do is go empty the bucket from the outhouse over back there, which we're not going to bother to go look at. And yeah, I've picked out what tools I'm going to take, and I guess now we'll just do a little FaceTime. And I don't think this video is going to be quite as long as I thought it was going to be. I might be a little bit repetitive from here on, but let's just give it a shot, eh? So, hey guys, I wanted to say a few things. The crossbills are going right in front of me now. That's pretty cool. They're really not like timid if you're, 5-10 feet away. It's just when you approach them, they fly away. So it's kind of nice because you can get a really good shot of them. I mean, maybe I'll just sit here on the bush for a minute. No, you can't see. It's like the camera's just doesn't see as close as my human eyes. Anyways, they're in there. So yeah, I wanted to clarify a few things, make a few things obvious. It's kind of like doesn't make any sense, but here I go. I love it here. It's beautiful here. It's peaceful. One of the things I like the best about here is that there's no noise. I know this isn't like the most flattering thing about myself, but when I go out in the middle of the night to go to the washroom or wherever to take a leak, I sometimes belch, like I burp, and I do it on purpose, because you can hear your burp like a mile away. It's got to be at least that far. Like the silence here is immeasurable, especially at night. Uh, I think I called the evening star Hesperides, but it's Hesperus. Um, I believe that it is right above the cabin when evening sets in and you can first see the stars. So that's kind of really amazing to me. I've always loved the stars, and you can see a lot on a clear night. Last night wasn't so clear. It was pretty cloudy, but I was surprised to wake up this morning and see that all the clouds are gone. But yeah, I just wanted everyone to know that I'm going to tell a couple stories and kind of talk here for a little bit, but I know I've gone through my journey here before, but I'm just going to do it a little bit differently this time. Is like, I had two dreams, and one of them was to go on a sailboat, and one of them was to have a cabin in the woods. And both of them, I would live alone. And on the sailboat, I would fish and eat what I had on board. And in the cabin, I would hunt in the woods and fish on the lake if there was one, which there is. And yeah, I mean, they were just, those were my two dreams. And like I mentioned way back in my first video, sailboats are expensive and it's very dangerous. People take it for granted, but it is really dangerous. You should not be out in the open water in a boat that's not, I mean, there are stories, of course, there are people who have, survived and done crazy things in tiny little boats, but you really need a good catamaran or a good seafaring vessel if you're going to do any transoceanic travel. So, anyways, cabin in the woods it was. I sold everything I had. February 2021, the 24th, I came in on a helicopter. I mean, I can give more stories later if anybody's interested about, what I did and how I did it and how I got all the money together and what I sold and everything. But yeah, I was just renting a place in the Lower Mainland, and I like literally I liquidated everything I had except for most of my tools. I had a lot of tools there. I've been in construction in and out for my life here, so what I could use up here I took, and what I didn't need up here I sold. And yeah, on February 24th, I settled in. I had a bunch of new gear with me. Obviously, I sold everything, so I had like, lots of new stuff. Um, Me and my dog Trigger came in. The helicopter dropped us off. I had no idea what I was getting into. And I think I did say this before in a video, but I had my I brought my snake with me. I'm a real bit of a romantic, I've come to realize through my reading, but I don't mean romantic in the way that you romance a woman or anything like that. I mean, like, I just have these imaginative thoughts or these like ideas that are going to, I guess they're like ideas of grandeur. Like, anyways, what I'm trying to say is like, when I came up here, I brought a boa constrictor I had. She was about 2 years old, and my mom very thoughtfully bought a little carry case for her, like a pet carry case, and hot water bottles. So I brought my boa constrictor up, and I brought a few rats with her. But the reason I'm calling myself a romantic about this is because, I had visions, and this is way before the cabin, way before the cabin was known, way before any of that. But I had visions of me and this boa constrictor and my dog Trigger all living in a cabin, and she would just maybe go free and eat all the mice that would probably be infesting the cabin. Because, this is the way I think, right? Like, you can call it weird, doesn't matter to me, but yeah, so the very first time I came out, I had this boa constrictor with me, and that was on April 23rd. I came out. I remember that date because it was one day short of 2 months that I had been here, and that was to sell my gold and get supply. But yeah, back to what I was saying. I'm gonna jump around kind of like Pulp Fiction in this story, but yeah, so I had my snake with me and the dog, and I don't know, I mean, the snake had been on a helicopter, and we set up the tent on the snow, and me and the dog were in the tent, and I was like, I want to keep the snake warm. It's a tropical animal. And here we are sleeping on like 12 feet of snow, right? Again, it's a romantic notion to think these things, but like the poor snake, right? So I put her in my sleeping bag because I hadn't made a fire, so I couldn't make a hot water bottle. And I put her in my sleeping bag with me. And this is a gross story, but she ended up like, I think she puked because I fed her right a couple days before we left. because I wondered, because snakes are kind of funny. You could feed them and then they'll be good for a while, right? So I did bring some frozen mice with me up here that I was gonna feed to her. But anyways, long story short, yeah, she like it was like 2 or 3 in the morning, freezing cold. We're all in the tent. This is like the second night we were here. Maybe it might have been the first, somewhere around very, very right after we got here. And she was laying, and I felt something warm on me, and I knew it wasn't the snake. And yeah, so basically, I had to get up in the middle of the night. It was like -20 that night or something like that. It was really cold, freezing cold. And I had to clean me, myself, and the snake and the sleeping bag all up. And it was just disgusting. And that was like one of the first things that happened to me here. Another good story from the very beginning is, and you got to forgive me if I get a little bit emotional here, because my last dog, Trigger, was absolutely my best friend and soulmate. And he came with me on this journey, and it was hard for him, and it makes me sad. He lived a long life, so I don't know, but what I'm trying to tell the story of is me and Trigger went down to the creek, and it was like one of the first few times I was getting water, and he was out walking on it because most of it was frozen except for the part that I was dipping in the containers there, right? And he fell through the ice, and I was so worried, and I was so afraid that he was gonna like, I didn't know how deep it was or anything like that, and I was worried he was gonna drown or freeze in the water, and it was like seconds, and I was thinking I gotta go in after him. And then he actually managed to get out, and I was really worried he was gonna get hypothermia or be too cold, but he was fine. So yeah, that what happened in the first few days we were here. The snake crapped on me, and the dog nearly died in the creek. So, it wasn't easy. And then I know I never mentioned this, but I ended up getting frostbite in my feet. I mean, this is a lot for me, you guys, because I'm here right now and I'm remembering everything. So I'm just going through it in my mind. And I know I'm emotional, but I've never said this before either. I have never thought that it is wrong to cry. If your body or your mind or your soul or spirit or whatever you want to think is making your body cry, then why should you prevent that? We have tears and emotions of sadness for a reason. And I'm not sad right now, don't get me wrong. It's just I don't have a cry stop button. Like, if I'm gonna cry, I freaking cry. I don't care if I'm crying in front of the hardest person I know in my life. Like, it doesn't matter to me. If I have tears to flow, they go. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is that I ended up getting frostbite in my feet. I bought these pair of Columbia footwear, which I thought would be really good. They're supposed to be all season, and they weren't steel toe. They were not. And basically, I was kneeling down on my knees, and the toes of my feet were in the snow. And I never had frostbite before, or even understood how that worked. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't like the worst case of frostbite at all, but yeah, I got frostbite in about 3 of my toes, one on my, I think it was my left foot, and 2 on my right. And I remember, this was a few weeks into being here, but I remember that, like, some of the pain from that frostbite at night when I was lying in bed, because I didn't have anything to treat it with either, right? Like, I got frostbite. It was just on the very tips of a few of my toes, and the pain at night would just run through my body, and it was just, my whole body would quiver. But I never quit, guys. Like, I just thought, well, don't put your toes in the snow like that anymore. This is all part and parcel to what you've decided to do. So just go with it, right? And I hope it's not too much to just look at me and watch me while I make this video. Still going, right? 35 minutes. So yeah, I went through the frostbite, and then actually ended up getting into a fight with my mom because I had some money while I was here still. I had quite a bit of money actually when I was here, and I still had all my gold and my silver, which I never sold. And I used to buy silver here and there and kind of store it because I'm one of those people that believes that, the price of gold is pretty steady, but the price of silver will one day just skyrocket. So, anyways, I got into a little bit of a fight with my mom, and I just told her, I was like, "That's it. I'm done. My Garmin's going off." And I turned that Garmin off for near a month. And it was a couple of days before I was going to turn it back on again and see. Like I said, it was nearly a month it was off. A couple of days before I was going to turn it on again, I was laying there and I was thinking, well, you're fighting with mom about bringing you supplies, and you have money and you have gold right now. And, I was laying in bed and I was thinking about all the things that I wished I had done before I left, which is really crazy because, like, you do things before you leave, but you don't realize what you wish you had done until you're actually out here. And I had these visions of, like, I'm not even going to get into it, but most of them are satiated now. Not all of them, but I have my whole life to do. It's mostly just gluttony and eating and what you could have eaten. But anyways, I decided that, what I was going to do is call the pilot, and I'll take myself out and I'll get my supplies myself, and I will sell my gold and stuff, which in the end would be more expensive than having my mom just send them in on a helicopter, which is what I was planning to do. But that's not what was intended for me. And I do believe in fate, and I do believe that everything happens for a reason. As a matter of fact, small side note here, if I was dying in bed in the hospital and you came and you said, what can you tell me about life? There'd be only two things I could tell you. And one, I would tell you God is real. And the second I would tell you is that every single thing, no matter how big or small, happens for a reason. Yes, we have free will, but the majority of our lives is pretty much wound in the strings of fate. And if you guys know me at all, you'll know that I do like a lot of mythology and stuff like that. And if you go all the way back to the Greeks, who were pretty much the founders of all the stories that we tell today, they believe that too. Long story, I know. This is my last video. Nobody's forcing you to watch it. It's not my very last video, but it's my last video like this. So yeah, I came out and I got picked up in a taxi after the helicopter pilot, and she took me to the grocery store, and I bought a bunch of food, and I bought Trigger Dog food, and went to 7-Eleven, got a pack of cigarettes, went back to the hotel, flicked on the TV, called my mom, told her, haha, guess what? I came out to get my own supplies, don't need your help. I put a lot on my mom throughout my life, and it's not always fair to her. That's a totally different story that we're not going to get into, but my mom is really good to me, and she cares about me and loves me. So I called her and told her I was out and that I was going to get supplied up. And it was in a small town, so I wanted to get a ride somewhere bigger to go to sell my gold and silver, because I figured I wouldn't really get very good of a deal selling it in a small town, which is probably true. So yeah, I took my gold and my silver, and I was in this hotel. And while I was in this town, I was like, well, these are all the supplies you're going to go get. Why don't we go shop around? It was actually my mom's suggestion. She was like, well, you should go look around and see what stores they have and what you can buy from there so you don't have to transport it very far, right? So anyways, I went to these stores and in one of them, it was a hardware store. I said, "Hey, I need a ride to Prince George, which is a big city, fairly close to where I was. Not very close, but I was in Mackenzie. I've mentioned it before." And she said, "Well, I know somebody who can drive you there." And she gave me a number for this guy. I won't say his name. I don't say people's names. It's not fair to them. They don't have any they don't have any say as to whether or not their names are put into these videos. So I took his phone number, and the taxi girl actually told me that her sister drives to Prince George. And so the taxi girl was a bit of a flake. And she did call me back and tell me that her sister was willing to drive me. But by this time, I'd already made contact with this guy who was also a person who could potentially drive me there. Anyways, long story short, I called him up and he said, "Why do you want to go to Prince George?" And I said, "Well, because I got a bunch of gold and silver here I need to sell." And he said, "Well, coincidentally, I buy gold and silver." So he came over to the hotel, and I'm not going to be too long winded here. We really hit it off. He ended up buying all my silver. He says he's not so much into buying the gold because it was, it was quite a bit and it was expensive. But he said, "I'm busy throughout the day, but why don't we hang out tonight and have some drinks and we'll, get to, we'll talk about it." So that night he came and picked me up and we went over to his house and again we hit it off and I hit it off with his wife and we all had a great time and they said, "Well, don't go staying in the hotel for the rest of the time you're here. You can stay with us." And I said, "Well, that sounds great." So I took them up on their offer. The next morning, he came back to the hotel where I was staying, and he picked me up in the bright and early morning. And they outfitted me with tons of supplies. We made a deal with the gold for cash and supply. They had a lot of things. They were the kinds of people that store up stuff. I don't know what you would call them if there's a specific word. Doomsdayers is what you would call it, I guess, right? So they had huge stockpiles of food and they had all sorts of different camping gear. I mean, they live in Mackenzie, they go camping. Like I said, they were doomsdayers. They had a bus that they could, go drive off into the middle of the woods. That's part of the reason why me and this guy hit it off so much is because he respected me for so much for what I was doing. So, yeah, I left them on a very good note. I stayed with them for about 4 days, and I said goodbye to everybody, and they dropped me off at the helicopter, which was also in Mackenzie, and he flew me back here, back to Lake Purgatory, and I landed and all my stuff, and I had a great time. And for 2 months, I was texting on my Garmin and hanging out, making all the food that these people had given me. They'd outfitted me with tons of food. I had totes and I had supplies galore compared to what I had before because you can only bring in so much every time. I've mentioned this before. So when I first came in, all I could really bring was all the tools that I would need to survive. And then the next time I went out and came back in, I brought a bunch of food that I could use to survive, as well as a bunch of other more tools and different things like that. So then that time went by, and in the beginning of July there, I've already told the story, but I got the moose, and I'm not going to get into too much about what happened with that, but yeah, I mean, I went back out not too long after that. I did all of my work on the moose and then I went out and I went back to the same people who I bought the gold and silver from. They picked me up from the helicopter place. I've been texting them and telling them exactly what was happening and what was going on. And my plan was only to come out for a little bit and share some of my good fortune with them. And they said they were really busy and they could use some help. So I decided that I was going to help them for a couple of weeks. Trigger was sick at this point. It's one of the main reasons I came out. Like I said, he either got a parasite from eating raw fish, or he had a face infection that we actually managed to get him over while we were out here. I think he got like a porcupine quill in his cheek or something like that, but on the inside, it ended up getting infected. I don't know. But anyways, he did come by that, but that probably weakened his immune system quite a bit. So I'm just gonna periodically make sure this is still recording while I ramble, okay? And we're good. So anyways, yeah, I Trigger was sick and I took him out and I went back to the people and I knew that it would be a couple of weeks before Trigger was well again. He ended up passing away within a couple of weeks of me coming out. I gave him medicine and the best treatment I could, and it just was too much. Either the infection had weakened his immune system so much that whatever he was sick from, he passed away, or I mean, he was a very large dog, and he was 11 years old, older than 11, and yeah, it broke my heart. It really did. But I knew that I had more years with Trigger than I was expecting to have. And the fact that he'd been with me for this was a really big deal to me, even though I feel really bad because I took him out of this life where he slept in my bed and slept on the couch and hung out with me. And I brought him here to sleep on 12 feet of snow in a tent with me. It's not cool, right? He's an older guy. So, anyways, I feel bad about that, but that was my journey, and he was my soulmate, so he came with. And right after Trigger died, I realized how much I needed a companion while I was out here in the woods. And the people who I was staying with, who bought the gold off of me, who picked me up again from the airport, they were really against me getting another dog. And I was kind of like, okay, well, I mean, it's not really your business, right? This is I'm going back to, the lake, and I'm going to go stay there. And again, this is at a time where I didn't know about the cabin. It was actually right after Trigger passed away that I found out that there was a cabin here, because I was calling floatplane pilots to find out about going back in and seeing, if I could get one for cheap, right? Because helicopters are expensive to take, but in the long run, I found the floatplane pilot. He told me about the cabin. Trigger had just passed away. These people didn't want me to get another dog. It's not their business. So I was actually working for them, and I was painting this house of this guy named XMX, because I don't say people's names. And I told him, what was going on, because we would have conversation in between me painting. I'd paint the outside of his house. I'd be painting in a doorway, and he would, be talking to me. And he was like, "Well, you're a mountain man. You got to have a dog. What if you see bears, or what? You need something, right?" And I said, "Yeah, that's the way I feel too. But like, they're trying to talk me out of it." Anyways, he went online to this Facebook group, Speak Out Mackenzie or whatever it was, and there was an ad there for a free dog. And I'm not particular about my dogs. I never have been. Isabella is my fourth dog. I had an English bulldog when I was growing up. He was all mine. I took care of him. I had a half Great Dane, half German Shepherd for a number of years. His name was Rhino. Took care of him till he passed away of cancer. And then there was Trigger, who I had for 11 years. So I've pretty much always had a dog. And I've never been too particular about what kind of dog I had, except for the old English Bulldog. I really wanted that when I was a kid, so my dad got it for me. But long story short, Isabella arrived in Mackenzie because she was actually from an Indian reservation, or a Native American reservation, or whatever you want to call it. Uh, she was from a reservation up north, and so yeah, they dropped her off, and she was tied to the truck in not a very nice way. Like, they tied her so that her neck was like hunched down, and I know she'd been in the back of the truck for a couple of hours because they were driving from the north down, and they told me. And so yeah, I untied Isabella, and bam, she was my dog. Now during this time, This is kind of a long bit of a story, but it's a good story. And if the phone's gonna record it, why not? We got nothing else to do. Uh, I've done all my chores, so I'm really doing this for like maybe to kill some time and have fun, whatever. Anyways, so while I was painting this house, I'm lying in bed, and I'm staying at a house that the people who bought my gold, they had a second house that they rented out, but nobody was in it, so they put me in it, and they were happy to have me there because I cleaned up everything and I, was guarding their. They have a legal marijuana grow operation in there, so I was basically, at least somebody was there to kind of watch over it. Not that I had to do anything or look after anything. I just, it's presence in the house so nobody would break in, I guess, right? And so yeah, I got Isabella, and um right before that happened, uh, I got a knock on the door at like 12 at night. And I'm not going to get into the details of the story too much, but the wife of the guy whose house I was painting, was frantic, and she wanted me to come over in the middle of the night. And he was having a problem with drinking, and she wanted me to drive to Prince George to pick up his friend who is supposed to come back and pick up a motorhome. Blah 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 blah. It's a very long story, but anyways, so I'm a pretty good guy, and I don't want anybody driving drunk. I'm not trying to be an egotistical person here. It's just a fact. And so I went over to their house in the middle of the night, and I said, "Well, why don't we just go get them right now?" And everybody agreed, all parties consented. So I hopped in their car, and me and the guy listened to Johnny Cash. He was just drunk out of his mind, and the thing was, is he was going to leave in the morning, but he had a prohibition against him, so that if he was like pulled over and even like the hint of a smell of alcohol was on him, he would be in some real trouble. So yeah, so he was drunk as a skunk. We drove down to Prince George and we picked up Ed. Now, Ed is the one name I will say because Ed would not mind me saying his name. And it turned out Ed was a bushman just like me. And while the guy was passed out in the back seat and we were driving back up to Mackenzie, me and Ed were going on about all the stuff in the bush. And he was teaching me things and telling me shit, and excuse my language. And we went up there, and right after Ed got there, I got Isabella, and the motorhome that Ed was supposed to drive back to Prince George in wasn't working. So that delayed him for a few days, and I was still painting the house. So I got to know Ed during those couple days, and I told him about all the crap that was happening with the guy, because I actually walked Isabella over after the day Isabella came. I was like, all right, well, I'm staying in these people's home. I better let them know I did get a dog, and there's not much they can do about it. So I walked Isabella over to their house, which was about, a block and a half, 2 blocks away. And I walked up in the backyard, and he's like laying in his chair, and he's like, "Hey man, whose dog is that?" And I was like, "Well, this is my dog." And he just got up and he freaked out. And you don't freak out on me. It's probably not a good idea. You can if you want to, but he raised his hand to me, and that got shut down pretty quick. I sat there and I didn't even flinch at him. I looked at him. I had a few words. And then I realized it probably wasn't welcome to stay there anymore. And these people were not who I thought they were. And during this time, Ed was saying, "Well, why not come back to Prince George with me? And you can get in the motorhome, and I'll take all your stuff, and I'll help you get back to your cabin. I know the roads around there. We can figure it out." So yeah, this is a really long story, but this is one of the more interesting ones. So I came out and I went with Ed, left Mackenzie, back down to Prince George. Ed had his motorhome there that he just moved, and it was pretty good condition, nice motorhome. I had Isabella, and so me and Isabella camped out in the motorhome until we could come back. And during this time we were in Ed's house, I kept noticing that Isabella was looking in the bathtub all the time. Like, she just kept going in and checking the bathtub, and she seemed really sad when she was doing that. Um, So I kind of put two and two together. I like to think that I'm a little bit of an empath. And I knew that Isabella had had puppies because the people who I got her from told me, and then you could tell that she had puppies. And she was very young. She couldn't have been more than a year and a half when I got her. And so, yeah, I knew she had puppies. I knew she was really young. Obviously, she was missing them. And I could tell that she was looking in the bathtub. And I was thinking, some people carry their dogs to the tub when they're having their puppies so that they don't make a mess everywhere. So maybe she's going to the tub because that's the first place she saw her puppies. So that's where she's going to go check. So this is all just logic in my mind to me. And I realized, Isabella would like a companion. So what did I do? Went on the merry old internet and found her Sam. And yeah, the woman who I got Sam from was very nice, good Christian woman. I spent a lot of time on the phone with her. Sam was a few hours away. They were driving to Prince George, so they ended up dropping her off to me. And Sam and Isabella have been together ever since. That was about 2 weeks before I came back to the cabin. I met the float plane pilot in his location there, and he took me and the dogs and all of our stuff. And now we're back at the Lake Purgatory here, and back to the story. Not that we're not telling the story. I had all this dog food, all this supplies, all this stuff. I always managed to get everything together, get all the money and everything. And this was the last of my money, really. Um, and yeah, where his boat is basically on the other side of the lake. And it's my thought. I know there's a better, more complicated word for what I'm trying to say, but it's my thoughts that he wanted to check out. He's always in a rush. I mean, I've only met him a couple times, but every time I've met him, he's been Mr. in a rush. And he said, "Oh, listen, I got stuff I got to do. I'm not going to be able to putz you back and forth across the lake." I said, "Hey, that's fine." When we flew in, he flew me over the cabin. He's like, "Hey, see, there's the cabin." And as soon as I saw it and where it was, I knew that I had been so close to it and not come to it, which is kind of disheartening, but is the what it is. So, anyways, he took me to where his boat was, and it's my thought that he wanted to go check on his boat and his stuff, but his boat wasn't even there because I had moved it at the time, right? Anyways, he dumped me and all of my stuff on the other side of the lake, and he was a real dick about it. And that's why I say I don't care about calling him a dick. And I don't mind if he ever sees these videos. When I tell the next part of the story, you'll kind of see where I'm going with this. But what happened is that he dropped me all my stuff on the other side of the lake. The cabin was over here. I had about 400 or 500 pounds worth of stuff with me. All food, dog food, this, that, and the other, right? And so I ended up spending a couple days back at my old camp because it was all set up, and I hadn't been there for a couple of months. And like I told you guys before, everyone, that I really, really loved that place over there. I wanted to spend time over there, so I did. And yeah, he dropped me and my stuff over there. I went and spent a couple days over there, and then I had to move everything I'd ever brought here, all the totes, everything. We're talking like at least 1,200 pounds worth of stuff, right? I had to move it all the way from the other side of the lake to the cabin. So it kind of goes like this. The story is that as soon as he dropped me off, I went and I got the boat and I loaded it up with stuff and I tried to paddle down the lake, but it wasn't being had. The weather was terrible. It was raining and the wind was completely against me. So I had to dock the boat and come back and get it later. I went back to my old camp. I spent a couple of days there. And then for the next month, like it wasn't exactly a month, but pretty near a month, almost every day, I had to row back and forth and get all the supplies from the rock where he dropped him, all my food off. And it's in the middle of the woods. And like I said, I've never seen a bear here. I've never seen anything like that. But who knows? Like, it could have been anything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Are animals going to get at my dog food? I mean, all this time I've been living like, keep your food safe, keep everything, and then he goes and he dumps everything on, like, basically out, like, you guys, I never showed you this, but you guys, but there's a rock down there. It's a huge rock. It's one of only a couple on the lake. And yeah, all my stuff was just sitting out in the open, like exposed. And I had nowhere to put it or anything like that. And I didn't know if animals were going to get it. Anyways, I'm rambling, but I moved all my stuff down to the cabin, found the cabin. Cabin was beautiful. It needed work. I've done a lot of work on it. Like I said, I fixed up the windows. The porch was collapsed. I fixed the porch. I fixed inside. There was some damage on the floor and the floor was falling apart. So I fixed all that. I've done a lot of work on the cabin and that kept me occupied and everything was cool. And yeah, so after I had all my stuff moved here, I kind of got into the swing of things. Oh, my watch just beeped, and that means that this video is an hour. Let me just check and make sure it's still recording. Yes, it is. I don't know if you guys still want to look at me, but that's what you're going to get. So yeah, I moved all the stuff over here. Oh, I can see Samantha and Isabella way, way, way across the lake. Even if I turned the phone, you wouldn't be able to see them. But I haven't heard from them in an hour, so I kind of was wondering where they were. I got all my stuff here, did all my repairs. By this time it was October. Hunting was going really well. I've pretty much told this part of the story. There's not much really to say. Is that, after I did everything and I had all these, things to move, and I moved them all here and put everything where I wanted it, hung my hats on the wall, put my slipper box, underneath the food shelves, and all that stuff was arranged. Then it just became winter. And my winter days were, wake up whenever I want, which is always nice. Everybody thinks that, like, it's nice to wake up whenever you want. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But yeah, I would wake up and it would be snow outside. And, this Pulp Fiction time. I wanted to tell this story about the very first thing I ever killed out here because I'd never told it to you guys, and it is a really good story. But basically, I was down, and this is at my old camp, before I even moved it to the second place where the table was, or the third place where the table was. But I went out and I was gonna go hunt, and I had my snowshoes. So this was after the first time I came out. So this is the second time I was back, or the first time I was here, the second time I was back. And then I saw this duck and he was swimming around and he saw me and he flew away. So I, like Elmer Fudd style, I like crept up on the duck, hide behind a tree. I had my shotgun with me and I shot him. And he flew into a peninsula in the creek. It wasn't a peninsula, it was an island. Sorry, my bad. And that's where he died. And now there was still tons of snow on the ground. The creek was running, but it was freezing. So it had all melted in the creek portion of it. But the water was freezing cold. And I was thinking, like, man, I just took this duck's life. I got to go get this duck. Was brand new to hunting at this point. And so anyways, yeah, there is no long story short on this one. I stripped buck naked, and this is really dangerous. And I looked back at it as soon as I did it, and I thought how stupid it was. But I stripped buck naked. I had paced around on the shore of the creek for a while before I realized I was going to go in and get that duck. I was starving. I hadn't had meat for a while, and I really wanted that duck. And so, yeah, I went in there and I jumped in the creek naked, and I was freezing cold, and I swam and I grabbed the duck and I came back and I put all my clothes back on and went back to camp and kind of warmed up from a fire. And then I passed out for like hours and hours because I guess my body was exhausted from swimming in the ice cold water. And I wanted to warm up and be in bed because I didn't want to catch hypothermia or whatever. Yeah, and then I plucked the duck and I ate that SOB and it was delicious. And I was like, well, I'm going to need more of these. To be honest with you, I think I've only killed less than 5 ducks here in my entire time. I've killed other waterfowl. I'm not gonna say what, but yeah, I've killed a couple other kinds of waterfowl, but ducks, I think I've maybe killed 3 or 4. Um, the reason is ducks are really skittish. Uh, they're hard to kill, man. Like you got to get pretty. I think that's why people use shotguns. Like, I don't have a duck call or anything like that. I just if I see him, I go try to get him if I can. I haven't done that this time because I just don't. I can't bring myself to kill so much this time. I mean, the chickens are one thing, fish is another. But anything else like the moose with her calf or the ducks swimming in pairs on the lake, like I just don't want to kill that. So, anyways, yeah, I'm no, I went on a big side note there, but yeah, that was my first kill ever here. The dogs are just having so much fun right now. I mean, I wish we were closer and we could see, but they just like these two dogs are just best friends, man. They're my whole life. I love them so much. And just to see how happy they are right now, it just kind of like breaks my heart because tomorrow when they wake up, well, they'll have it for a little bit, but then the helicopter's gonna come and no more absolute freedom for these two. But my friend said something to me. I might have said this before, but he told me, he said, dogs are just gonna care about whether or not they're with you. They're not gonna care where they are, they just want to be with you. And I think that's true to a degree, but if the dogs can be with me here, where they're here with me 24/7, or if they can be with me out back in society, and I know that's kind of weird that I call it society, but that's what it is, then yeah, I think they'd rather be here. But anyways, they're having fun out there, and that's the whole thing. I wanted them to have a good last day. So yeah, I was having my days in the cabin, come out, cut wood for a few hours. I've told you this before, but out here it's all about food and boredom. I had a lot of media on my phone. I mean, especially looking at now, having absolutely no media on my phone. Like I one of my favorite movies of all time is Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. And I think one thing that helped me a lot when I was here last time was Groundhog Day because I would watch Groundhog Day. And I remember there was a period of a couple weeks where I watched it every single night because I thought it was hilarious because being here is like being in Groundhog Day, man. Like the only difference is the weather doesn't change, but and Ned Ryerson don't come around the corner every morning. But yeah, there's so much I see in Groundhog Day that I see here. So yeah, I used to watch my media. I watched my Angry Video Game Nerd. I'd cook. I watch movies. I'm just gonna ramble off for real quick here. I had a movie called The Eighth Night, which is a fairly new horror movie. It was Korean, I believe, or yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Korean. I'm not 100% on that. I watched Groundhog Day. I had Jeremiah Johnson, one of my favorite Christmas movies. For me, it's a Christmas movie. I think I had Watership Down, and I had The Dark Crystal, which are a couple kids' movies that I really enjoyed. And I had this other movie, I can never remember its name, but it was a fairly new horror movie, but it wasn't really a horror movie, even though it was. And it was like, I don't know, it had a Heaven and Hell, this book by a guy named Swedenborg. And I don't know. It was a long movie, but it was pretty good. And then I had this other Italian horror movie. I love horror movies. It's pretty much the only kind of genre of movie that I would really care to watch. I had this other Italian horror movie. I think it was called like A Classic Horror Story or something like that. It was pretty good. And I can't really remember much else I had. I did have every single Angry Video Game Nerd up until like the latest season of 2021 or whatever. So yeah, I watched that a lot, and my days were just really, really very much repetitive, the same. I had good food. I've never had a problem with food out here. Even when I first got here, all I had, and I'm not exaggerating, all I had was sugar, tea, and soup. And I had bought a whole bunch of Knorr soups, and I opened them all up and I put them in Tupperware, and that's what I brought with me, and that's what I lived off of because I thought I could catch things and eat in the winter, which turned out not to be true. I very, very, very much was emaciated the first time I came out, like a Holocaust victim. It's not funny. I'm not making a joke there. I was really, 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 really thin. And so was Trigger because all we had was soup, and he had this dehydrated dog food that I was very sparse in giving him, so he was constantly hungry. We were both starving basically the first time I came here. And yeah, so my days were very much the same, always in the cabin. It was very lonely, and even though Ed and I had some challenges, I missed staying with Ed, and I knew that he was alone, and I was alone, and I asked him, I said, "Can I come out?" And he said that I could, so I went to go stay with Ed. And my plan was I left on December 3rd, and I went and I stayed with Ed. And I've been back at the cabin since September 13th, so it was 2 months and 20 days. And I went and stayed with Ed, and we just didn't get along like we were before. Well, not that we got along epically before, but even worse this time. And that's when I called my buddy from Vancouver to come and pick me up, and he did. He came up right away, like a champion, and he picked me up and brought me back down to Vancouver, and I got a job, and I had a place to live, and me and the girls were there. But when I came out, I only planned on coming out for a month or two, maybe at the most, and I had my mind bent on coming back. I left everything here, all my grandfather's things, all my guns, all my ammunition, all my clothes, except for the few clothes that I brought out. I mean, I didn't really go out with very much. So yeah, after being out for just over 6 months, closer to 7, I guess, I finally made my way back here, and like I said, I had to pull some strings, and I had a buddy drive me up, and I got to tell you guys the whole truth. I mean, people back home were like, why are you going back? You can stay here, and I just kept telling everybody, I'm not happy here. I'm not happy here, and I guess the truth of that is I don't know where I'm happy. Like, I'm happy here. I miss there. The grass is always greener on the other side, right? Like, I know in some way I'm going to regret leaving here, but that's why I make these videos, is just to remind myself that it was hard. It's hard to be alone. And I love the dogs, you guys know that, but it's not company. It's not I love my mom. I miss my mom. I want to talk to her. She's like my last real living family member who I depend on and love, and who loves me unconditionally. It's like sending a few text messages on a Garmin every month is not enough for me. And so I know I'm getting emotional again, and that's okay with me. So hopefully it's okay with you. But yeah, I mean, I want to go home, and I think if I had all my stuff with me and all my grandfather's stuff, I might not have come back, although I did want to come back. I mean, it's not that I didn't mean what I said when I said I wanted to come back. I wanted to come back. But as soon as I came back, I wanted to leave. And that's probably because I was out for a long time, and probably because the second I came back, everything was exactly as where I left it. I didn't have anything really to do. I'd already fixed everything up. The only thing I could potentially work on was this other cabin that's on my right here, that one. And, I would sit around during the day when I first got back and think about all the things I could do, and some of them I'd set about to do, and things wouldn't go my way, or it didn't turn out as planned, and I would just either give up on it, or, this shelter is one thing I did because I wanted it and I needed it, but
not taking very long to do, and or didn't take very long to do, and once it was done, it was like, well, what's next? And then I said this before many times, but food is always just like, I'm okay with eating the same thing every day. I've managed this long. I'm not insane from that. I'm certainly, this I could say with real honesty too, is like, this time I've really been eating the same thing all the time. I mean, it's the second and the third time I came in was not like that. The first and the fourth time, yes, I have been eating exactly the same thing. The first time was soup. This time it's rice, beans, pasta sauce. Yes, I make chili. Yes, I make bread. Yes, I make muffins. I make all sorts of different things. But the long and the short of it, I'm eating the same thing all the time. And I'm not too bad with that. But oh man, my roasted garlic and red pepper's running low. Oh man, my garlic powder's running low. I really like garlic. And, like, oh man, I only have 2 or 3 more uses of soy sauce. And oh man, and I've got this ham. And, it's like, I mean, thank the Lord that I got so many birds, because at least that was like fresh meat and diversified my diet. And, eating plain rice and beans is one thing, but eating plain rice and a nice spruce grouse that you went out and hunted and took and killed with honor and treated properly, that's a total game changer right there. So really grateful for the hunting this time, and I'm actually glad that I didn't kill any ducks and that it just ended up being a bunch of spruce grouse. But whatever the case may be, I'm leaving. That's tomorrow. I don't know how much longer I can keep going on this video. I'm not trying to drag it out. Those are all real, genuine stories. Of course, I have many more. I love telling stories and I love listening to stories. And if you've watched anything previous of mine, you've probably already gathered that. But yeah, I don't know. I've got less than 24 hours here. The helicopter will be here at 10 in the morning. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Can't wait to get out, get picked up. I got a couple places waiting for me to go to. I'm gonna rent myself a new place and get a job, and probably sell all my guns because I don't need them to get myself started. Or not probably. I'm going to sell all my guns because I don't need them, and that'll help me get started. And I've had a lot of different work experience, and I've worked for some pretty prestigious companies, so I don't think getting a job is going to be much of a challenge for me. I already have a couple things in mind where I can maybe even just get a job as soon as I walk out of here. But yeah, I don't know how that's going to work out. Before, what was making me sad was the uncertainty of when I was going to leave here. That really affected me, and I think you guys could see that watching my videos. But now it's more not sadness, but I have a new kind of uncertainty, and that's like, what's next for me? Because this has really taught me that life is an adventure, and it's what you make of it. And attitude is everything. You can do so much with a good attitude. You have no idea. If you have an idea, then good for you, because it took me a long time to learn just how much you can do with just a good attitude alone. And I will tell you that the grass is always greener on the other side, but the other side gets mowed even less. So I don't think I'm going back to heaven. I've given this over a year and a half, and yes, I've been out for a good portion of that year and a half, but I've done what I came out to do. I can affirmatively say that I've lived in the forest with no people around, have never seen a person here, never once. There are no roads here. Everything has been brought in by air, including me, including all the dogs that have come with me. And I really, 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 really appreciate here. And like I was trying to say when I was breaking down earlier, but I've already broken down a few times now, so what's another one? Is like, just the thought of this cabin sitting alone without anybody to love it. And I know to some people it's an inanimate object, but it is not an inanimate object to me. It was my home. and I loved it, and I thank the Lord for the guy who built it, the gentleman who built it, and all the people who have taken care of it over the years, because I know it's had repairs over the years. And it just breaks my heart that it's going to sit here and I don't know who's going to use it next. And I've left all these things, and some of them are really important to me and just for survival, not for any sentimentality reasons. And, there's like, I don't know. I'm just going to go on forever if I keep going. So I just want this cabin to be good and safe. And I want everything here to be safe. And the fact that it's going to be so quiet here. I mean, I guess the spruce grouse will be pretty happy there's no one around to shoot him. And the moose can come back to his lake now because I haven't seen her for a long time. And I know I said his and her there, but I really appreciate everybody. And I really, really, really do. I could always use more friends. So if you want to reach out to me, I'm going to leave some links below there, and I'm going to read as many comments as I can. If you guys have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them. I'm going to take one more short video tomorrow. The helicopter's supposed to come at about 10 in the morning, but probably around 9:30, I'm going to flick on the video, and I'm going to get this all charged up tonight. And yeah, I'm going to just take a video of the helicopter coming in and say goodbye to this place with you guys. And there might be some tears, there might not. I might have already been cried out, but thanks to everyone. If you ever have a notion to do something, I would say this is your life. You got to do what you got to do. You got to take advantage of every minute you have. You never know. You never know what can happen. And if you have a dream and you have a possibility to attain it, then you should do that. And it might not turn out the way you expected to, but that's part of living your dreams, man. I love everybody who watched this.